Deutsche Bank, one of the largest financial institutions in the world, has agreed to pay $75 million to settle a lawsuit by women who say they were abused by the late financier Jeffrey Epstein and accuse the bank of facilitating his sex trafficking of young women. This is a major development in the ongoing legal saga of Epstein, who died in jail in 2019 while awaiting trial for sex trafficking charges. The settlement resolves claims in a proposed class action in Manhattan federal court by Epstein's accusers, who allege that Deutsche Bank ignored red flags and failed to monitor his transactions, which involved payments to alleged co-conspirators, victims, and sex traffickers. The accusers also claim that Deutsche Bank profited from its relationship with Epstein, who was a client of the bank from 2013 to 2018. According to the settlement agreement, victims of Epstein who were affected by his sex trafficking during the time when he was a customer of Deutsche Bank would receive at least $75,000 and up to $5 million depending on an evaluation of their claims. The settlement also requires Deutsche Bank to cooperate with the accusers' lawyers in their investigation of other financial institutions that may have enabled Epstein's crimes. Deutsche Bank has not admitted any wrongdoing in the settlement, but has acknowledged its error in making Epstein a client and said it has invested more than 4 billion euros to strengthen its internal financial controls. The bank has also paid a $150 million fine to New York's financial regulator for its dealings with Epstein and other issues. The settlement is a significant victory for Epstein's accusers, who have been seeking justice and compensation for years. The accusers' lawyers said in a statement that this settlement is the culmination of more than a decade-long investigation to hold one of Epstein's financial banking partners responsible for the role it played in facilitating his trafficking organization. The settlement also puts more pressure on JPMorgan Chase, another bank that faces similar but larger lawsuits by Epstein's accusers and by the Virgin Islands, where Epstein had a home. J.P. Morgan was Epstein's bank from 1998 to 2013, a period when he allegedly trafficked many more women and girls. J.P. Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon, who has said the bank is not civilly liable for sex trafficking by its former longtime customer Epstein, is due to be deposed in those lawsuits later this month. Deutsche Bank, one of the world's largest financial institutions, has agreed to pay $75 million to victims of Jeffrey Epstein, the notorious sex offender who died in jail in 2019. The settlement would end a lawsuit that accused the bank of turning a blind eye to Epstein's crimes and allowing him to use his accounts for illegal activities. The lawsuit was filed by a group of women who say they were sexually abused by Epstein when they were young. They claim that Deutsche Bank knew or should have known that Epstein was using his money to fund his sex trafficking ring, but failed to report or stop him. The bank allegedly ignored red flags such as suspicious cash withdrawals, payments to women with Eastern European surnames, and transfers to entities linked to sex trafficking. The settlement is the latest fallout from Deutsche Bank's relationship with Epstein, which began in 2013 and lasted until 2018, when the bank finally cut ties with him. In 2020, the bank admitted that it made a mistake by accepting Epstein as a client and paid $150 million to New York regulators for compliance failures. The bank also said it has invested billions of euros to improve its anti-money laundering controls and hired more staff to fight financial crime. The settlement is also a significant victory for Epstein's victims, who have been seeking justice and compensation for years. Many of them were lured into Epstein's web by promises of money, education, or modeling opportunities, only to be sexually exploited and abused by him and his associates. Some of them were as young as 14 when they met Epstein. The settlement does not affect other lawsuits against Epstein's estate or his alleged accomplices, such as Ghislaine Maxwell, who is awaiting trial on charges of recruiting and grooming girls for Epstein. It also does not affect other banks that had dealings with Epstein, such as JP Morgan Chase, which faces similar lawsuits by Epstein's accusers and by the Virgin Islands. JP Morgan was Epstein's main bank from 1998 to 2013, a period when he allegedly trafficked many more women and girls. The settlement would benefit more than 125 victims of Epstein who previously obtained payouts from a restitution fund established by his estate after his death in 2019. The fund has paid out more than $125 million to his victims, many of whom were teenage girls when they were abused by Epstein. The settlement is the result of a lawsuit filed by the victims against Deutsche Bank, accusing the bank of enabling Epstein's sex trafficking by ignoring red flags in his accounts. The bank has admitted error in making Epstein a client and has agreed to pay $75 million to the victims without admitting wrongdoing. The lawyers for the victims say that this settlement is a historic resolution that stands for justice and accountability. They also say that Epstein's abuses could not have happened without the collaboration and support of many powerful individuals and institutions, including Deutsche Bank.